Hello and welcome to the Mysticast, where you join Jack Stafford, a member of the Aetherius Society, the cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, as we break down the barriers between religion, science, metaphysics, philosophy, and mysticism, all of which are really only aspects of the self-same quest for truth. Please note, this is an independent program not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, our guest is Alan Steinfeld. Hello, Alan.
Hey, thank you, Jack. I believe everything you say, science, mysticism, religion, they're all the same thing. They're really all aspects of the one thing we don't understand, I would say.
Exactly. Well, it's an honor to speak to you. You're well, you've been in the UFO field for, is it 30 years now? And you've emceed the largest UFO event in America, Contact in the Desert. You've been on with Deepak Chopra, Mariana Williamson, Ram Dass. You've been, I think you've met everyone in the UFO field there is to meet. Have you met any UFOs?
I have had some experiences. In my book, you can read about those experiences because it started at childhood, and then in 1987, I actually think I was an abduction, if you want to call it that. But, strange encounters have been happening for so many people. They just don't talk about it. And
yeah,
I think what's different about this time is that the government is talking about it in the US and in places like Italy. There's all over. It's a new time to acknowledge kind of metaphysical existence. I mean, science is pointing to that too, quantum physics and people like Donald Hoffman saying there's no such thing as time and space. Donald Hoffman, the case against reality.
Yeah.
So it's all seems to point to a reality that we have not been aware of for a long time. I mean, maybe indigenous people are, but the Western world and their materialistic obsessions have ignored a non-material existence, which, of course, is a part of all of us, right? The Theosophists knew that, and then, of course, they were just forgotten. I mean, some people, of course, haven't, but mainstream world is slowly waking up to the fact that there's an Ethereum world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast is primarily for members and sympathizers of the Aetherius Society, and formed in the 1950s, so the oldest international UFO organization. And Dr. King, he went over to America. Did you ever get to meet him?
Edgar Casey?
Dr. King, Dr. George King, founder of the Aetherius Society.
Oh, George King, who wrote those books from Mount Shasta. Was that George King?
No.
That was somebody else. No, I haven't met him. When did he live, George King?
He died in the 1990s, but he was in America in the 1960s.
No, I never met him. I never heard. I mean, I know an Ethereus Society guy in New York. I think he was. What's his name? I'm sure you know him. He comes to the Contact in the Desert stuff.
Okay.
I think he's living in Washington now, but he's always promoting the society.
Oh,
but
you don't remember his name, though?
What's his name? I probably have it in my phone book, but no, he's popular U.S. Ethereum Society. I think he takes out ads or comes to Contact in the Desert to talk about it, but I really don't know that much about what your organization believes. I mean, and how it fits in with what I'm talking about.
Sure. Well, I could give a brief summary. Not really. It's an unofficial podcast. I could bugger this up, but let me just try it. So the Theosophists believe in ascended masters. The Theosophical Society was envisaged by them, and the Cosmic Masters envisaged the Aetherius Society, and they created it through Dr. King, and he was a medium for about 600 cosmic transmissions. So he did 10 years of yoga in England. In the after the war, 1940s, 1950s, he did advanced pranayama 8 hours a day. So he raised his consciousness. So he raised it into samadhic level. So he raised the kundalini up the spine. So he was an advanced yogi. I mean, to do that, yogis do that in the desert, in a cave, but to do it in a city, in a materialistic world like that, like London, was unbelievable. So he could, because what mediums you get someone on your level, yeah. So if you want to get a very advanced master, you have to be a very advanced person.
Right.
So he made contact with the extraterrestrial interplanetary parliament. So he didn't claim to come from people from Andromeda. It was people from Mars and Venus. It's people in this solar system. And he channeled books like the Nine Freedoms and 12 Blessings. Yeah, very advanced. Which the Nine Freedoms, for example, tells us what. So with Buddhism and Christianity, you have to go through enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, ascension. You think it's game over, get back to God, but unfortunately, that's just one turn of the wheel. We have to go through many other incarnations. We go to interplanetary existence, Saturnian existence, solar existence, and then consciousness goes on, and eventually we amalgamate back to God. We go to planets. We evolve into planets. Planets evolve into suns. The galaxy's a living being that breathes. It can't go back to God because it hasn't transmuted matter yet. So it's this.
But there's so many people saying those things now. I mean, there's people channeling people from also. I mean, the vibration of the earth has raised. So maybe he did that back then, but now I know housewives who are having Kundalini awakenings. I mean, they're just and tapping in. So, people like King were leaders because they had awoken in the West, but now the whole vibrational energies of the West, and probably planetary, if you're not trapped by an old religious dogma, are awakening to this, and they're channeling people from Andromeda. And I mean, I see channels. I interview them on my show. I have a YouTube channel with, a lot of the work there is from channels, interviews with channels, and we're getting fantastic downloads that may have been amazing back when George was doing it, but now it's sort of every day. What are the Syrians saying? What are the Pleiadians saying? So it's just a world we've gotten used to. That it'd be great if your society could integrate some of the new channels and the new messages, because it's like the news, it keeps changing every day, but it's also not the news because it's also eternal. So, but, as our integrations into planetary civilizations happen, we need more and more downloads to integrate who we are. So there's lots of great books out there, new books. And I used to follow a lot of well-known channels like Ramtha. You know who Ramtha is? Anyway, there's a lot of great channelers out there. There's Bashar.
So you've done a think piece with your new book, Making Contact. How can we prepare for an event that is literally beyond anything humanity's ever faced? So making contact with these beings who are millions of lives more evolved than us. What are some of the takeaways from your book?
Well, first, the subtitle, Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial Existence, is that the mainstream has to be aware of that it's happening. I mean, we're talking, me and you, to metaphysical people who are already multidimensionally.
We preach to the choir, yeah.
Right, but maybe so I don't know what takeaways for your society would be, but first, that life is an emergent property of creation itself. We're told Darwinian theory, it's an accident. I mean, maybe you teach that too, but it looks like it's everywhere. Life, consciousness is the substance of creation, right? I mean, and that consciousness is not local to your brain. So I teach remote viewing. Do you know what that is, remote viewing?
Yep, sure.
Well, when I teach it, and I learned it from the people who created that at Stanford Research Institute, people like Russell Targ actually taught me personally the way he would work with people in Stanford Research Institute. And I know Hal Puthoff, I knew Ingo Swann, who actually coined the term, but remote viewing is an actual demonstration that consciousness is not local. Yeah. It's everywhere. And you can, through your consciousness, make contact with other beings, other etheric or physical beings that are also consciously developed. So, yes, some civilizations may be millions of years in advance, but on a soul essence level, they're the same as us. Yeah, they may be smarter, they may have greater technology, but no one, in my opinion, and from what I've researched and heard, is greater than the soul itself and soul conscious, right?
The absolute, yeah.
Plus, and it's just culturally um, the way we're conditioned to put limits on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've
What
heard
we
it
gonna-
explained in my metaphysical lessons that we exist in a sea of mind, and
Yes.
consciousness is mind slowed down. So the chakras are vortices which slow down consciousness, so I can experience this vibration, this frequency of life at my level of consciousness. If I raise my consciousness, so I go to another frequency, a higher consciousness. So,
Right. I mean, I don't see it quite as the mind slowed down, because that's interesting. I never heard that before. Is that one of the Ethereum teachings about?
that's from Nehemiah Davis, yeah, who was a yogi. He's an American yogi.
Oh, well, I see it this way.
He's a
You have
member of
your-
the society too. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, well, you have your hardware, which is your computer, right? That's your brain. You have your software, which are the programs that run the thing, and that's the mind. But you can have a mind and you can have a brain, but you need something to run the software and the hardware.
Yeah.
You know what that is? That's the person at the computer. That's consciousness. So
Yeah.
consciousness uses the mind, because the mind is limited, and maybe that's what you're saying, slow down, and consciousness is infinite. So consciousness, which may be particular to an individual soul, but also it's all one as well. So we're talking about contradictions, but to go to the next level, you have to resolve the contradiction. So consciousness uses the mind and the brain to express and have experiences that are registered in the soul, which is different than the spirit. Do you know the difference, or what do you think the difference is, Kosa?
Well, spirit is unmanifested, so it's still
Yeah.
connected to the divine, and the spirit incarnated the soul. So the soul was created, does have a beginning and an end, and the soul manifested. We have 7 bodies, so we have the astral, the etheric, the mental,
Right.
and so we're
Yeah, the soul, I think, and from what I think and learned, is the recorder of experience, the akasha, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
But yes, the soul is the infinite. That, I mean, in my understanding, that the spirit uses the soul to record experience and learn the lessons of incarnational experience.
narrow its focus so it can experience itself talking to itself. Yeah.
But the soul then soul is connected to the spirit as it incarnates lifetime after lifetime.
Yeah.
So your soul has a record of every lifetime you've ever had, and parallel lifetimes that you've experienced on so many different dimensional planes.
Yeah.
And, we're here to own the human experience on a soul level. That means you're here to have you don't have to do everything. You don't have to jump out of a plane to feel whatever, but you're here to have every human experience as emotional feelings. So then when you walk down the street, you could look everyone in the eye and say, I know what they feel. I feel who they are. And then when that happens, there's ignition on the biophotonic level. There's an ascension that happens when you come to peace with yourself and the world and humanity, and you've done the best you can. You cleared your karma or whatever, and you really sit back and you come back and say, okay, I'm ready for the next level. That's what they call the ascension process, where cells ignite into a light frequency, rainbow body, light body, whatever you want to call that. But the world now is also ascending, the planet, human civilization. So yeah, there's awful things happening, wars and famine and not nice things. But I feel that's the last of that sort of level of interactions. And we're at this turning point in the history of humanity where it's going to become obvious we're not alone in the universe because we're going to have raised to the level where we can interact with those beings that have been waiting for us to grow up, you know?
It really, it's great talking with you. Really so aligned, because the UFO field needs people like yourself, because that's something that we get too often. We imagine them in our own image, materialistic, scavenging, but the spirituality of the space people, they're closer to God. They have a much greater belief in God than we do. That they're simpler people, but a much higher level of consciousness. So it's great that you're talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, what I say about God is not about belief, because I think we're fractals of the infinite. So I think the divine is within us.
Yeah.
Which is in all these other extraterrestrial beings that are divine as well. So it's knowing the divine, which is going to bring about the ascension of humanity. And, it's nothing like, it's not about belief. It's about gnosis, the Greek term gnosis.
Yeah.
That the Gnostics and gnosis, that it's direct knowing of spirit, which is what the mystics throughout the ages had, that, John the Divine, and like some even saints, or in every religion, there's people who transcend the religion, like Rumi, and say, yeah, there's 1,000 ways to bow and kiss the ground. That was Rumi. And, he is the best-selling poet in America now, Rumi. Yeah.
Really? Well.
Yes. And he's just caught on. It's been a Rumi wave. I mean, and Holman Barks was a great translator of Rumi, and because he speaks to an emerging spiritual population that's happening everywhere in the U.S. I travel a lot in New York, California, the Midwest, the Southwest, the North. There are groups of societies, not just the Aetherium Society, which I think should be integrated into the collective awakening. I mean,
that's why we're doing the show. We want to try to get the word out about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the whole thing. Yeah, this guy I knew who was Ethereum, his name was Paul. He was living in California, and then I think
Nugent?
Yes, I think that's it. Yes.
Oh, there we go. The Englishman.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
there we go.
Yeah.
He's a bishop in the society. Yeah, I'm actually talking to him in an hour.
Oh, tell him I say hi.
Okay, great. Yeah,
I think that's his name. He's living in Washington now, or somewhere
Hollywood, California. Paul Nugent.
Oh, yeah.
Very English.
I think he was on the East Coast anyway. Yeah, I think that's the guy, Paul. Yeah. What you say his name was? Nugent. Yes, I think that is Paul. I think that's the Paul I know, because I would run into him at a lot of conferences and he'd be talking about. But anyway, the takeaway in the book is that for the mainstream, which is preparing them for something they may not have suspected is a reality, especially since the US government is now saying UFOs are real. They exist. Yeah. We've seen them. We have craft. We have bodies. This just came out. So that's a wake-up call for people to say, what? We thought it was all nonsense. And, of course, the government and the Air Force in particular have been lying to people about the existence. So not just people are saying what happened, politicians within the U.S. Congress, they're saying, how come we don't know this? And they don't know it because there's a big controversy between government, elected officials, and the military. The Pentagon are selling, I think, secrets to private industry and getting a kickback or something. I think that's one of the problems. And they're keeping these secrets hidden from elected officials who are actually these military working for the executive branch. And so no one has been able to come in. I mean, the president, if he was to take power, we don't have any really good leaders. Maybe that's true everywhere.
Maybe deliberately.
Maybe, yeah, you're right. But, at least in this country, there's no one standing up and said, I'm going to find the truth. I'm going to run for president. I'm going to be, some people say Robert Kennedy, but I don't know about him because, I'm a little suspicious of him. I mean, he seemed like an
heard.
okay guy, but what
Yeah.
do you know his work?
Yeah, we heard also that you ask questions, you get shut up. Yeah.
Right. But who's shutting these people up? This is what has to emerge now. Finally, we realize, and this is what was said on television, we're not alone in the universe. That is a huge game changer.
Yeah.
You know, it took the church 300 years to forgive Galileo for saying that, proving that the earth was not the center of the universe, even though Copernicus had said Galileo proved it, and he was put in jail, and it took, just till the 1900s for the church to say, oh, I'm sorry about putting Galileo in jail. So we're in a phase shift that may take 300 years for the mainstream. That was the mainstream, years ago in the 1700 was the church. And the church now are, scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson who's saying, no, there's nothing out there. Or, that book by Thomas Kuhn, Theories of Scientific Revolution, he's saying, people get attached, even scientists get attached to an old worldview. Look him up, Thomas Kuhn, great guy. He's no longer around, but people get attached to their worldview and they invest in their worldviews, and all they can say about something outside their worldview is it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're calling the UFO, whatever these things are now, unidentified anomalous phenomena. So we're sort of stuck in a Kuhnian type of moment where the anomalies, and this is happening with meteorites, actually. Meteorites, people didn't believe rocks fell from the sky.
Yeah.
Until I think French farmers would find these rocks that weren't there before, and some have even so. So science had to update. Well, maybe there are rocks that fall from the sky, and that just happened in the 1800s. So we are still having this meteorite thinking, no, there's nothing out there. It's impossible. And it takes a while for the mainstream to catch on. So that's why I wrote this book, Preparing. It's like, first become aware of what's possible. And this book is not just my contributions. I've asked 11 of the best, most expert researchers and experiences in the field to write a chapter in this book. And so you get this mosaic because nobody really knows what's going on. We're getting perspectives. And I think we need, the elephant, all these different parts to be put together and step back, because we're at the stage where we're not getting the truth from government, because maybe they don't know what's really going on. We're getting lots of various different perceptions depending on how you interact with the phenomena. Some people just see round ships or cigar-shaped ships, or have these little gray abduction experiences. Other people are having these high, space beings experience, maybe like George King. But, there's a variety of experiences, a variety of researchers. I mean, there are agreements that you can see in this book. There's the agreement that all these beings are telepathic on some level, and humans have the capacity to be telepathic. That's probably one of the few agreements, but there's not major disagreements. Everyone's looking at the elephant from a different point of view, but there definitely is an elephant in the room. We just don't know what that elephant really looks like, because the government and the Pentagon are holding their pieces of the puzzle. What we need to demand, not just as a U.S. population, as a world civilization, is for truth to be uncovered. Let roll out the craft, roll out the bodies, not what they did in Mexico with Jaime Maussan, seeing these little things that may or may not have human DNA or not, but the bodies that are in the official keeping of the U.S. government and military. Let's see what those bodies look like, because it's been acknowledged that they're here. So, and this guy Grush, who David Grush is, he's the intelligent. He said in one private meeting, these bodies, that these biologic bodies look like the typical gray. big head, big eyes, no nose, no mouth. And this is a lot of what people are seeing in their contact experience. So he validated that for me. Whitley Strieber, if you ever talk to Whitley Strieber, he pictured on the front of the book Communion, the face of that gray. And people would start to see that and freak out because it might be true that there's a lot more people having contact than they're even aware of. I mean, this researcher that I know, Alexis Brooks, says as many as 80 to 90% of the population of the earth has had some kind of contact experience. I mean, that's a lot. I don't know if that's true. I know I have, so I can only speak for myself, but maybe there's a lot of people. Have you ever had a weird experience there, Jack?
No, I'm afraid I've just purely believed in when I first came across, exactly like the elephant and the experience you said, I kind of like had to strip away all my old beliefs, in fairy, it's all true, fairies, mermaids, UFOs, all these things through all these myths throughout history. I learned to accept them all. There all been so many sightings though, and
right. But you never had anything like a deja vu, a coincidence,
oh yeah.
You have. Well, how do you even explain that, right?
Oh yeah, there's no I'm a firm believer, yeah.
Right. I mean, but you don't have to be a believer when things happen to you. It's not about belief. If I asked you, do you believe you're sitting in that room? You'd say, no, I don't have to believe it. You know it. So I'm not saying maybe you need a more intense experience to not be a believer and to be a knower.
To be a knower, I've had whole conversations about that. What's the difference between a believer and a knower? Yeah, but
well, belief is conjecture. It doesn't mean anything. I believe this. Belief is make believe. You make yourself believe. Knowing is direct experience.
Yeah.
That's what I would say about that.
But we're definitely in this unfolding, and to go, I had Avi Loeb on the show, the Harvard scientist who's doing also a lot of work, and I think that science advances one funeral at a time. I've heard that.
Exactly. That's the paradigms of scientific revolution, and I liked Avi Loeb. I've interviewed him too, but he's. I'm saying, look, Avi, the government is saying there's UFOs. He goes, well, I want to see for myself.
Yeah, I want to believe. I want to know.
Yeah, so he travels around the world to pick up a piece of garbage at the bottom. No, it's probably something at the bottom of the ocean outside of Indonesia and say, oh, okay, maybe there's something there. But just get inside the government, demand, and we have to demand. I mean, some of us already know, so we don't need to see it. But yeah, I think it's great for the world to finally wake up to the fact that we're not alone. And the other thing is that government saying, we don't know how to protect ourselves. And I say, well, you don't need to protect yourself, because if you needed to protect yourself, they would have taken over a long time ago.
Well, there's two phases to it that we're told in the Aetherius side. The first thing is the silence group, that, they're denying it for many years. And then the second phase we're coming into now is that they're dangerous and we need to arm ourselves against them. And
I don't think we need to arm. First of all, we can't arm ourselves against them because, they are millions of, and I think if they wanted to take over, they would have done it by now. Yeah. And so I think you have to rewrite your Ethereum books, because I think they're not interested in how we anthropomorphize their presence. Like, this is what humans do. They come into a world, they take over the society. This has been the history of European civilization.
We don't say that in the society, no. I mean, the way it goes, I think, in my limited understanding, is that we had Maldek, which is the asteroid belt. We destroyed that through nuclear. We had to incarnate on a planet. The only planet available was Earth. Adamic man was here first. We came in here lived on the etheric planes for a long time, and then we incarnated. Then we got up to the level of Emeria, also started nuclear wars, went back to the swamps, had to be, and then came back through Atlantis, and then we had to be cut down again. And so the people that they designed these vehicles for us, it's in the Bible, the Ancient of Days, that these vehicles of expression for us, we have to be taken down to this level. So we are, in effect, at a very low frequency. These bodies were designed for us by extraterrestrials. by.
But we are the extraterrestrials. We've incarnated.
Man, yeah. I mean, we are advanced.
Whatever,
we were much more advanced.
Yeah, we've incarnated these lifetimes after lifetime, learning the lessons of Maldak, Lemuria, Atlantis. We've learned, at least some of us, and we're not interested in making more. I mean, some people are, of course, but
it's karma. We're the group soul of all these people as well. If we just let it happen, we're as liable karmically as they are, as those the ones who actually press the button.
We're not letting it happen because there's, I think, a lot of positive for it. Of course, there's wars happening now, but I think we're at a new time. We're in the Aquarian Age. You know about that, right? Do they believe in that?
Yeah, George King is the master for the Aquarian Age.
Right. So he's one of them, maybe, but I don't know that much about him. But the Aquarian Age is where everyone comes into their own divine awareness and resolves all the old karmic issues of all those lifetimes, and we create a new society of possibilities based on free energy. And that's, getting back to my book, one of the main reasons we're being kept from the truth, because if we had energy that replaced the fossil fuel industry, they would lose billions of dollars and people would be free to be more abundant. We could cultivate the deserts, with unlimited energy. On the other side of that, think of the awful weapons that people could make from a free energy bomb.
Oh, yeah.
We need to.
Is it also Planet X? Is that so in our teachings that there's Planet X and there's going to be a split in humanity? The ones who are, like you say, are ready for the new age can stay here and enjoy paradise, or there's another classroom ready and waiting for those who need further study.
But that's happening now. Look at the U.S. There's people who are very stuck in a kind of old belief, and there's lots of patriots and nationalism around the world. And then there's people who are breaking down the walls of nationalism and being very much like, imagine, like John Lennon said, all the people living.
Yeah. Well, it's the quickening, isn't it? I mean, it's accelerating now. We have, because the clock's ticking down. So
and there's a bifurcation within the cultures, the world cultures, because UFOs are appearing everywhere around the world. This is and people are having experience in dreams. So this is a new world that is emerging right as we speak, and I think it's probably the most important turning point in human history. So maybe all the predictions of the Aetherian society can be revised in a way and say, like, okay, let's work for a unified world of truth, bring out the mystical teachings, know that it's a reality, and start to live that way as a planetary civilization, because the only way we're going to meet the others on an even playing field is if we come together as a oneness of humanity.
Oh yeah, we pray. We don't know when this is happening, and we pray that it doesn't happen for as long as possible, because with this quickening, the longer it waits, the more time we have for everyone to get.
But it's happening. It's a good thing. The quickening.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's happening right as. I mean, Bruce Lipton. Do you know who Bruce Lipton is?
Yeah, it rings a bell. Tell me again.
He's an epigeneticist. He's a biologist. He's a kind of spiritual scientist, but he's mostly been a biologist, and he's revised the theory of evolution. He says things evolve because they intend. It's Lamarckian as opposed to Darwinian. And he says there's intent. It's not arbitrary mutations that evolve species, like Darwin says. Oh yeah, it's just arbitrary. And then the survival of the fittest. It's not the survival of the fittest. It's the survival, if you want, of the most aware. You could say that's the fittest, but it's the survival of communities coming together to build awareness. This is evolution. When single cells formed with other single cells, they said, they increased their awareness. They say, you look this way, I look that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then something happens when single cells come together. First, they form a colony where they're, talking back. And then something's called the synergy of awareness happen, where those cells no longer become a colony of cells. They become organism, and a single organism, like all the cells in your body right now are contributing to a single focused awareness. How is that possible? Well, consciousness is involved, but on a cellular level, they share a synergy of awareness. So that synergy is greater than the individual cell. So human beings are like cells. And as we come together, yes, we have countries and we have communities, but at some point in our evolution, something awakens for the next level of superorganism to form, and we realize we're all part of the same superorganism, and then we share a synergy of awareness where we can share consciousness, and that becomes much more available. So it's no longer separate cells. There's still individual cells, but there's an interchange, and what happens to you happens to me. We understand the empathic relationship of community members, and we become a one consciousness, which forms the next level of superorganism.
Beautifully said.
Well, thanks. But not only that, the next of humanity becomes an organism, but then when we're coming from a singularity of oneness, and that's the true sense of singularity, not what Ray Kurzweil says, not me, but the singularity of shared consciousness, where it becomes, we're aware that we're sharing consciousness, then we meet the other consciousnesses that are already in their oneness awareness. And first we form colonies, but then there's a greater superorganism that emerges from humans coming together with other groups of beings to form the next level of evolution. So it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, what the masters say, 1 + 1 is 4. You always create new, there's all these invisible things, there's a group soul of ufologists, there's a group soul of communism, there's a group soul, we're all forming group souls, and all these connections make something bigger. That's like we say, the sea of mind, that's
right. And that's happening to humanity, but of course there's a lot of stuff we have to clear up and clean out, the whole aggression and war and religion, I think, is a big problem personally. Maybe you call your organization religion, but I think religion has a lot of dogma, and
there's nothing wrong with the religion. It's the problem with the people. That's the
right.
Religions are all beautiful,
but the people get attached to religion. If you're a different religion than me, that means you're a different person. And when you start to demonize people, then it's okay to kill them because you demonize them. They're no longer human. This is what I think Rene Girard talks about, the Firmacos.
It's beautiful what you're doing. I see over your consistent red line through all your work, hosting events, and now with this latest book, bringing people together to see all the sides of the elephant and to realize our commonality, because it's so easy for, we could argue about the little differences between our worldview, but 99.9% of what we're on the same page here, and so we all need to, we need to come together and unite the light and so we can all shine brighter.
Exactly. So I'm really happy you're doing what you're doing. I mean, I think the teachings sound very much in alignment. It's about spreading the light, expanding consciousness, getting out of our box, right? Allowing the prophecies from the Ancient of Days to be fulfilled, that we're one great Adam Kadmon, whose teaching is very similar to that. He writes a chapter in my book as J.J. Hurtak, The Keys of Enoch. Do you know those?
No, I'll check it out.
You know that book? Check that out. It's very much like what you're saying about the Ethereum Society. It's very metaphysically multidimensional, includes so many aspects of the spiritual worlds, so and other the Keys of Enoch, Book of Knowledge, J.J. Hurtak.
Check that out, the Academy for Future Science.
Yes, Hurtak. Yeah, definitely. No, that's very much in line, I think, with what you're saying. And actually, he's a good friend of mine, him and his wife. They both wrote that chapter. And they have a chapter about ultra-terrestrials and extracelestials in my book here, Making Contact. Yeah, so we're not just talking about 3D little green men or wherever they're, but we're talking about levels of dimensional presence. that are non-physical or in levels of non-physical. You could be non-physical, but on one astral level, or you go to the next, what you're saying, 7 levels, and there's beings that exist with conscious awareness. Like we inhabit the physical, but we also have conscious awareness of other planes, but those other beings inhabit those other planes with consciousnesses of the lower plane. So
that's really interesting. I was heard that the other day about because on our level of incarnation, we have to die to go to the astral plane or the etheric planes. So we reincarnate, we die, we live here for a bit, we die, we live over there, and we come back here. A different frequency. Each chakra is a realm of consciousness, and then but on the other planets, because after the destruction of Valdek, this had to be set up, this system, because otherwise we could destroy again another world. So on the other planets, they inhabit all realms at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So but I don't think we have to die to go to those other realms now. I think people
you project if you're good enough. But I'm not.
Yeah, I think we have to just evolve out of the density of human beings. And this is what's happening now to the frequency of the earth itself, the Schumann resonance, the physical body is ascending, accelerating its vibrational frequency to bring us closer to the causal planes and all that. So we're integrating, and someone like J.J. Hurtak has already integrated a lot of the awareness of those planes, and that's helping to raise the physical vibration of our bodies so we can access those realms without having to die. Spirituality and the understanding of all those planes can be an everyday conversation.
I need to stop now. I need to go and read this book. Or is it available on Audible? Is it
you can look up the website, and I think do you read? It's in many different languages, but look up the keys of the Academy of Future Science website or Future Science.
It's your book. Your book is.
My book. Yeah. Oh, my book is on Audible. Yes. Get my book right now.
Do you read every chapter, or do the guests read it?
What's that?
Did the guests read every chapter?
Oh, no. I had Random House hired actors to act out because I read the introduction, but because the book is written by many different people, I don't know if you can see that.
Would have been too difficult to get.
Linda Moulton. I mean, these are experts in the field. So we have different people, actors, really good quality. I was really surprised. I was like, I'm happy I read the introduction, but it's great to have people with real expression, not monotone. So yes, it's on Audible. Let me know what you think about it. And I think the takeaway really is we're coming into a new time.
Yeah.
And like I said, the extraterrestrial, because we are in essence not contained in the body. Our consciousness is from the infinite unknown.
Yeah.
We are waking up to the fact that the planet is getting too small. We need new technologies to support a world that's growing. We need to stop being greedy, and materialistic, to realize there is a spiritual world. And, everyone goes to India for like their spiritual understanding, but there's a big spiritual tradition in the West. I mean, including theosophy and all the things that you're talking about in your society. So you have to recognize our own traditions here.
Well, this little bit of the infinite, enjoyed speaking to your little bit of the infinite, and I've got a lot from it. You've really expanded my understanding.
Thank you. Let me know where you're going to show this program, and tell people to buy the book. It's on Amazon. It's on Audible. It's on Kindle. It's anywhere you want to get it. And
your website is alansteinfeld.com? Or?
No, my website is newrealities.com, and my YouTube channel, where I interview lots of people talking about the sub-UFOs and spirituality and chakras. All those things are youtube.com/newrealities. Okay. youtube.com/newrealities. And I'm also speaking at lots of conferences in the U.S. and the Conscious Life Expo next week, the Sedona Ascension retreats in March, Contact in the Desert in June. So if people listening from the U.S. come to those conferences, I think I'm speaking at the New Life Expo in New York. Anyway, it's fun just talking about this because people are ready to hear it.
Yes.
And they're ready to share experience. I hope you have a UFO experience soon, Jack.
I hope so too. I'm looking out the window now, and I look up. I keep reminding myself to look up, but as yet they haven't deemed me worthy.
Where are you? Well, I think when you feel it, trust your instincts. Where in Italy are you living?
Underneath Salerno, about an hour and a half south of Napoli, opposite the Amalfi Coast.
Oh, okay. Go to the coast. Look up at the sky. Are you looking? You look the coast. Go. You looking?
I can see the coast from my window. Yeah.
Oh, you can. Are you looking west from the coast?
Yep.
Is that? Oh, yeah. Look out to the sea.
Okay.
And look at those little lights. It's great if you have night vision glasses. These are military glasses. It amplifies the light 10,000 times. It looks like daylight. You see so many more things in the sky. Satellites. You see a lot of satellites, but you also see these strange objects. I was looking through one, and there was a triangle way out in space. And as I was looking at it, the triangle went from its tip up to its tip down, and that was not vision glasses. Military goggles. And they're expensive. You know, they're like, I don't know, 10,000. It can be expensive depending on your grade. Maybe 1,000, a couple of thousand. I don't know. You can get some on the market. I mean, but any form of that is good to see more things in the sky than we ever see with just looking up. And it's fun. Well, thank you for the opportunity here.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. So how'd you find out about me in the first place?
Well, of course, you're a big name, but didn't have to look very far. You're one of top picks.
I'm just doing my thing. I mean, it's nice to know people are paying attention, but get the book. Let me know what you think of it. Give me an email after you read it.
I'll send you love to Paul too.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, Alan. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. And if people want to learn more about the Aetherius Society, they can, of course, go to aetherius.org.